That's right, we're back with another video. And today I'm pretty excited because we're going to be taking a look at the style of one of my favourite blues guitar players, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Now I want to take a look at ways that you could get closer to the Stevie Ray Vaughan tone, also run through some vocabulary, and there's also a chance to play over the backing track that I performed over in that intro jam, and there's also some tab for some of the ideas in that solo. But before we get cracking, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I make new videos like this every week. So the Stevie Ray Vaughan tone is the stuff of legends, and there's several different component pieces that we can take a look at with a view to helping you get closer to the Stevie Ray Vaughan tone. Now of course the main component was Stevie Ray Vaughan himself, the way he dug into the strings, the attack, and also his touch and the way that he played the phrases. But a Stratocaster style guitar with a neck pickup selection is definitely quite a good start in terms of getting that Stevie Ray Vaughan sound. I think any guitar with a neck pickup selection would get you somewhere near. I'm also using a Tube Screamer overdrive pedal, and that's got quite a sort of signature mid hump in the overdrive sound. So you could get that on your amp by just setting up a light overdrive and putting the mids up on the EQ section. You can also experiment with emulating that loud amp sound by putting a compressor in the signal chain. I've got my amp set up in Amplitube, and it's a Fender Twin set flat out, so it really gives that sound of the amp complaining every time you hit the strings. The other thing I'm using is a heavier gauge pick, and Stevie Ray Vaughan was famed for using heavier gauge strings. It's worth remembering though that he down-tuned the guitar by a semitone, and that also helped to reduce the tension of the strings, even though the sort of gauge of strings that he was using would still make the feel pretty tight. I'm using gauge 11 strings in standard tuning, and I find on a Stratocaster those will put up with me really digging in hard with the pick, and I think that's probably the most important part of this sound, is this digging in and hitting the guitar as if you mean it. So the backing track is a shuffle blues in the key of E major, and the main scale that I was using is the E minor pentatonic. Now there's two different forms of this in the solo. There is the classic box position and also playing the pentatonic up and down one string. So first of all, I demonstrate the B string E minor pentatonic positions. That's really advantageous to use because it's possible to keep the high E ringing as a drone, and that helps to thicken up the sound in the power trio setting that was double trouble. Next up, I'll show you the fingering for the box 1 position of the E minor pentatonic. This can be played at the 12th fret, and it's also exactly the same pattern down in the open position. So I'll talk you through some of the ideas in my solo. Now the first opening lick is sort of nicked from Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan, and it involves sliding notes on the B string and keeping that open E string going as a pedal tone. This is played in a shuffle rhythm, and that fits in with the shuffle backing track. So when I got up to the 12th fret, I beefed up the pentatonic by playing it 2 notes at a time in double stops. So next up, there's an opportunity to play the classic 3-note Stevie Ray Vaughan repeating pattern. And this works a treat in the shuffle blues, as that 3-note pattern fits in 1 beat at a time. Now this idea is really great for improvising with, as you can just mix up which note you play first and also which note you bend within that 3-note pattern. So next up, there's an opportunity to play the classic Stevie Ray Vaughan punctuation point. I play this by lightly laying my fingers on the strings and then striking the strings and immediately fretting down on the notes whilst moving my hand quickly down the fretboard. That sounds like this. Now that classic box 1 fingering position can be played at the 12th fret, and it also works a treat down in the open position, and I can play all of the licks I play at the 12th fret down there in the open position. Now to finish up this solo, I'm going to move in position with the 5 and the 4 chord. So the 5 chord in the E blues is going to be B7, and the 4 chord is going to be A7, and I'm going to shift to the B minor pentatonic there on fret 7, and then shift down to the A minor pentatonic on fret 5. To finish up, we've got a collection of Jimi Hendrix inspired licks played in the Stevie Ray Vaughan style. Now Stevie was a big fan of Jimi Hendrix, and these licks are played 3 times against the backing track, so it may take a little bit of practice just to get them to fit in the right places. I'm using the whammy bar to set the chords off with a little shimmer, and also playing a 12th fret harmonic, and that is also augmented with a bit of whammy bar action. And the final chord is pure Hendrix. It's a dominant 7 sharp 9 chord, but of course Stevie Ray Vaughan used it a fair bit as well. Well, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And I'll also play that backing track and fly the tab in so that you can get to grips with where all the notes are. I recommend practicing at half speed to start with, and the YouTube slow down feature is really handy for this. It really allows you to get all the notes under your fingers, and then you can speed it up to performance tempo. Also, feel free to do your own version of this solo. All of these ideas are great to improvise with, and you can put them in any place you wish within the blues solo using your ear as a guide. Just to reiterate, the key points of getting the sound are to select the neck pickup and use a light overdrive with a good bit of mids flown in there. If you have got a tube screamer and a Stratocaster style guitar with a single coil, then that will also help your quest for the Stevie Ray Vaughan tone. I think the key factor is to dig in with the plectrum and really mean all of the notes. And you can also get that loud clean amp sound by using a compressor in your signal chain, or using an amp simulator such as Amplitube and setting the amp really, really loud within that package. Anyway, enough of my yakking. Here comes the backing track. I'll see you next time.